2, 3.
Welcome. You're listening to Guiding Stars Evolutionary Astrology Radio. I'm here today with a new guest, Stacie Pazura. I'm so looking forward to this webinar today, One with the Wild, because I have never talked about the Daemon archetype in any way, shape, or form in this kind of context, only within private sessions with clients. That's it. And I've been doing this work for 20 years. In fact, I don't know of anybody who's talked about it except for Jeffrey Green, Wolf Green, and it wasn't a solo lecture or a solo webinar. So Stacie and I both feel that we know a little bit about this topic. Right, Stacie? So welcome to Guiding Stars.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
We're both howling hello to everybody.
Yes, that's right.
These are our roots. So a lot of people that are drawn to evolutionary astrology are also very natural people, typically, or very, I would say, alternative people at the very least. But evolutionary astrology attracts those that are very connected to nature, to animals, to Mother Earth, all of it. And we just want to go back to the way things were in many respects, especially at a time like today. The time we're living in now. So anyway, welcome, Stacie, and we are going to talk to you about what the Daemon archetype is, if you're not sure and if you haven't heard much about it. We're going to educate you right out of the gates, and we're going to also share some chart examples to help you understand it more deeply from an astrological point of view. And if you're connected to animals in a deep way, we will show you how to find that in your own chart. Through these examples, you'll be able to understand how to uncover that in your own astrological charts. So you ready to roll?
Ready to roll.
Okay, next slide. So we want to talk about what is the Daemon archetype. What is a Daemon soul in particular? Wow, this is a Daemon soul. This picture is amazing. And in essence, what a Daemon soul is a soul that has spent a lot of lifetimes in nature with animals, whether the soul was hunting with them or just fusing with them on some level. We think about Deva spirits. We think about the blue people from Avatar. Is that the right movie?
It is. That movie made me feel like home. It was incredible.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
And that movie just reflects, at least, the patriarchal side of things, the nature of the type of humans that have totally destroyed Mother Earth and the people that want to naturally live within the wild.
And then it simultaneously shows a society who has integrated itself and developed itself in harmony with nature. And so, and the problems of that interface.
Oh, yeah. One hand, you want to be there for those people, right? As you're watching the movie.
Yeah.
Knowing what's coming. But really the power of so much that movie, though, the power of how those souls are connected to something so much larger than themselves. They're connected to another world, connected to that eternal pulse. There is no real separation. Yes, they have physical bodies of sorts, but they are dialed into forces that, are not limited by the human form. And so I really love that depiction of really what a Daemon soul on many levels represents. What else can you say about a Daemon soul, Stacie?
Well, first of all, the Daemon soul is, it's a type of soul structure. There are, 7 different soul structures, and Daemon soul is one. It's defined as being consciousness fused with the totality of nature. Human roles, but the consciousness in a daemon soul really is one with nature. The process of a daemon soul evolving is what it entails, a process of progressively remembering themselves. And so the more a soul evolves and works on that, the more they are conscious of that fusion. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, you know, it reminds me too, because daemon souls, obviously, there's such a diverse nature with even in that soul type. For example,
Absolutely.
there can be souls that are wanting
Yes.
to live with the wolves or hang out with the birds, or
Yeah.
you know, on
Or even,
horseback all the
or
time,
even
or even
connecting with
what?
plants. You know, you
Yes,
have
exactly,
daemon.
plants.
Yeah. It's,
Like,
yeah, and even within that, you have, you know, each soul is so unique. We all have our different orientations, our different values, our different qualities, and it's, yeah, it's immensely diverse. You can't just really easily point out and say this is what a daemon soul is, because it's just so relative.
right, and I'm going to show the listeners and the viewers with this next slide how diverse it can be. But as we're moving to this next slide on the mutable axis, I know for myself, and I'm particularly connected to wolves and horses in combination. And there's been different times in my life, even before I met Jeff Green and just studied this, and was fortunate enough to be able to be a student of his and dive into this work, immerse myself in it. It was just such a blessing. It still is a blessing every day. But I remember looking in the mirror at times, and usually it would be after a sporting event when my hair was all wild and I just looked like I'd gotten off my horse, and I could literally I literally would see this like animal that I think about, riding on a horse, this like a wild stallion of sorts that feels like always felt like my spirit before I even found this work. And so it's a very Sagittarian thing, of course.
Yes.
Sagittarius ninth house. I have a Saturn in Saturn in the ninth, and a lot of Sagittarian. But half horse, half human. That's a Sagittarius
Right.
symbol there. But in terms of a daemon soul, the daemon archetype itself is Sagittarius. Although, or if you see Jupiter somewhere in the chart, or planets in Sag, planets in the ninth, but this axis is really important.
Yes.
The mutable axis, you're going to see a predominance of mutable energy, mutable houses, for somebody that is feeling. I think this is the most important thing I can say today for somebody who's not sure what this is about. A soul that feels more at home in nature with animals than they do with people.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
The key too is this, that animals are pure emotion. They do not have an agenda, right?
No.
So we can trust the animal. I mean, unless it's the animals that tend to turn on people it's when they feel threatened, right? And they don't trust the person because of whatever energy is coming out of them, or what have
Yes.
you, or if that animal's been traumatized in some way.
Right.
But this
Exactly.
is the key for a daemon soul. Daemon souls are pure emotion at their essence, essentially.
Yes. Yes.
All
And
right. So
there's a
what do you
connection.
want in there? What?
There's a connection that is felt within a daemon soul. Just an automatic recognition of just the simplicity of the sentience behind the eyes of an animal. Yeah, it's like I look at animals like they're people. Not that I am anthropomorphic. I can never say that word. Not that I relate to them as humans. I certainly relate to them as, you know, in the forms that they are. But there's equality there. I just don't see a difference. So
Absolutely, because you're a daemon soul.
yeah.
Yeah. And I agree. You know, was to kind of go in order here with these mutable signs, but heck, we started with connection here. We are recording this under a Mercury retrograde in Pisces.
Yeah, and
Anyway.
my sound is cutting out every once in a while, so I'm trying to follow along as best I can, but there is.
Well, we're doing our best here. I think it's perfect that it's just about a new moon in Pisces. We've got Mercury retrograde in Pisces. We want to heal the archetype of Daemon. And
yes.
I remember Jeffrey saying that Pisces is the archetype of simplicity. It's
yeah.
It really is. It's like even the truth. Sag is simple. It's not easy all the time.
There's no pretenses.
Simple. Right.
Yeah.
It's simple and it means everything at the same time. That's Pisces.
Right.
You know, this pure innocence of an animal, the essence, the purity of emotion in a daemon soul without layers of conditioning, without repression.
I was gonna mention that. Yeah, conditioning can create some problems.
Yeah, it is. It is so simple. I remember just recently reading a quote by Yogananda, and I'm gonna try and find it before this show is over, but he was talking about, you know, simplifying your life, keeping things simple, the art of simplicity, and how everything exists within that simplicity.
Yeah.
If we crowd our lives with so much, and everybody that has an animal, whether it's a cat or a dog or a horse or birds, when we can just sit in a space with these beings, or take a walk in the woods, you know, with our dog, or, you know, really just be in a space with these beings, nothing else exists.
Even just listening to the birds in the trees.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It creates such a peace. That's Pisces too.
Yes.
And it allows the soul to relax and to align, and then to merge with the emotion of the animal that you're sharing a space with.
Yes.
Or animals.
Yeah. Can I just share, since you brought up Yukteswar?
Yogananda, but Yukteswar too.
Oh, sorry. You said Yukteswar, or you said Yogananda, and then I thought of Yukteswar. But one of my, in fact, probably my very favorite little story in Autobiography of a Yogi, he talks about a day where Yukteswar was sitting out in his, I don't know, courtyard or whatever, or somewhere, and these king cobras started darting for him, straight for him, you know, with, you know, all those, with the threatening stance. His was to chuckle, like, oh, you know, how laughed, rhythmic clapping, and they disarmed, and they just diverted. And I just love that story. You know, it's a simple little story, but I can just imagine him, just that little cute little chuckle, you know, towards this animal that's like ready to take you down. And that can be one of the disarming qualities of within daemons that's inherent, is a lot of daemon souls just have a natural ability to inner trepidation, just because of that emotional fusion.
Absolutely. And like, you know, he chuckled. There's your Sagittarian part of the accent.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So the quote by Yogananda I did find. There's really.
Oh, I'm sorry. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you didn't. Actually, because I was looking for it. It was, be as simple as you can be. You will be astonished to see how uncomplicated and happy your life can become.
I love
But,
that.
a lot of it is about stripping it all down. And,
Yes.
because in this quote, he's suggesting that we, overcomplicate our life, of course, and make things important that in truth are really not
Right.
important.
Yeah.
So another one, and then we'll move on, because I guess I'm just thinking so much about both Yogananda and Yukaswar, and there's a lot of great stories of Yogananda in particular with the animals. But he says, live quietly in the moment and see the beauty of all before you. Live quietly in the moment and see the beauty of all before you. And when I think about this,
Yes.
I think of nature, I think of animals. The future will take care of itself, is what he says.
Yes, because within nature, we don't have that construct of time that's like, okay, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, you have this much time to do that. It's just being present and just appreciating what's there. And I mean, it's an incredible experience to be able to do that.
Well, I mean, in nature it's a timeless experience. It is it allows you to experience something that feels timeless, but it is also a gift. I mean, of creation.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's like to just take in the wonder of all the diversity and just how everything, there's all these, diverse species in this web, this collective web, and everyone has their routines and their needs, and it just all balances and aligns, and it's just amazing how nature operates that way.
That made me think too of a quote that I shared in my last webinar, again by Jeff, and he said, creation is only limited by imagination. And it's a Pisces quote, but we think of Gemini and the mutable axis and the diversity that exists within nature itself. All the species, of animals and insects and plants and everything, It's amazing.
And it just sustains itself naturally. It's amazing.
Exactly. So looking here within the Gemini archetype, we've got the diversity in nature, of course, as well as flying animals is Gemini. The Pisces, it's the sea life. Virgo, we talk about domesticated animals, but it's also the medicines that can be made within the plants.
Right.
That's Virgo, sixth house. Like a medicine woman might have a strong sixth house, and Sag, or Gemini. It could be a strong sixth house with the archetypes of this mutable axis there, actively displayed. South node in the sixth with some other planetary combination, Pluto in the sixth on a south node in Virgo. I don't know, throw some planets in Sag. It's like, but it's important to remember too is that not everybody with a strong mutable axis is a daemon soul, right? Like this is observation correlation.
That is true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And there can be people that love animals, live for them. They have a lot of Virgo in their chart potentially, and they may not be daemon souls. They could just love the experience of feeling as if they are loved unconditionally by this pet. So it's important to really understand what's in front of you if you're looking at a chart or trying to help somebody along these lines. The other thing we should talk about. Oh, go ahead.
Can I? Yeah. Even for people who may not be an actual daemon soul, but have that orientation that you were just describing, oftentimes the counsel that you would give a daemon soul would be appropriate for them as well because of just that current connection.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing about Virgo, you know, you mentioned the natural remedies of plants, but there's, you know, there's also this component, because Virgo correlates to right work and, you know, getting your hands in the dirt and, you know, on a day-to-day basis, the maintenance of things. And, you know, that really correlates to gardening, which is something that I do right now. And you really, like, in the context of gardening, that has really just helped me have an experiential understanding of what an ecosystem is. It's a working meditation for me.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Oh gosh, I mean, really, nothing helps me relax more than gardening, I think.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say nothing. That's not true. But but it is one of my top few favorite things. I think being near the ocean would be another one. Things like that.
Right.
There's just certain natural environments that really, and for sure, because if you do have a strong Virgo energy in your chart, then being active and working in the garden and feeling like you're able to control a beginning, a middle, and an end to something. You know, it's really, really important to move the chi, right? That chi energy. For people with Virgo, it's important to feel like they're contributing. You are contributing in some way, and that takes effort, Virgo, and activity, and that's all part of it too.
Yeah, and it's almost like doing it with a spirit of being of service to nature as well.
Exactly. All right, and we can hang out all day with that image.
I know.
All right. So what happens when a soul is repressing this nature to be working with animals? Let's say, for example, a soul comes into this life and they weren't raised in a family where that was suggested, or in school, like, you know, maybe they're taking a more mainstream consensus approach, and so they have just no clue that they need to be working with animals. So we call it hiding behind who you are, because you're doing something completely foreign to you. Perhaps you've just kind of learned how to survive in some other way.
Exactly. And it's also, you know, in terms of hiding, it's just not showing your natural, simple self, that self that you are able to present with animals, in the company of animals. Then you get in the context of social expectations and, you know, all these, you know, consensus norms. And then there's this temptation to take all of that on and just get distracted with it. And so you're not working on, you know, that who the soul really is. And so
so this is a good point. And if we have to, we're hoping to have like at least, I don't know, a 3-part series to Damon. We may run out of time to do everything we want to do today. What I want definitely to talk about, we have to talk about, is what happens when you repress what is natural within the 4 mutable energies. Okay, so what does it look like? We're talking a little bit about what it looks like to express itself naturally through some of them, but you said a word just a second ago: getting distracted. Getting distracted by who you are. Getting distracted is a Gemini and a Virgo thing, because they're both ruled by Mercury, right? So I want to share something. When I got into EA and I was in the schools, when we would be done with the day, I used to go for a run, go running. That's what I did. And because I was a competitive athlete growing up, all up until probably until I found this work in my early 30s. But I remember Jeffrey saying to me, because, you know, inevitably at some point, you know, throw on my shoes and just go, or whatever, my running shoes. You know, after just like literally, like, I just gotta go. Actually, the first schools that I went to were in Laguna Beach, so, you know, you would just go running.
Oh, nice.
The school was near there in somebody's home, but anyway, he said this to me, and I'll never forget it. What are you running from?
Oh, wow.
Now, you're not going to go up to everybody who runs and enjoys running and say, hey, what are you running from?
That's right.
You know,
That's
I had
Jeffrey.
no idea. right? I had
Yeah,
no
he
idea
saw your insides there.
no idea what I was getting myself into with my third house Pluto. Yeah, so yeah, I had been running for lifetimes. And so getting distracted, that was a meditation for me. Exercise, I do have my sun sign sits in the 6th house in Sag with Mercury. So it is important, like gardening, just to, move the energy a little bit.
Yeah.
And all my Amazon backgrounds, I'm a physical person. I want to get out there and just go,
Right. Well, that's not me.
Run in the woods and wherever I can. I mean, get on the horse and go. That's just, how God made me, I think. But anyway, so distracting. Virgo would be, what's the Virgo 6th house distracting?
Well, I guess avoidance is Pisces, isn't it? Or is it Virgo?
It's the axis for sure.
Okay, yeah.
They're going to both avoid if it's not healthy.
Right. There could be just a sense of inferiority, relative to how, other people are. And, it's because it's kind of like you said at the beginning, how daemon souls are often, they can be quirky, they can just be a little bit different. And that's sort of what I'm saying. And so, those differences sometimes can be criticized by, people who are oriented to norms, societal norms, patriarchal norms. And so,
you've got avoidance, and then you've got this insecurity linked with being around people when you'd rather just be with animals.
Yes, exactly.
Oh gosh, and the other thing I remember hearing Jeffrey say a time or two, how sick of humans he is. So,
I've had that thought myself. Yeah.
So we've got distracting yourself and running from who you are, Gemini. We've got avoidance or making excuses why you can't do something.
Yes, yeah.
Virgo. Sagittarius, I just think of like the living lie, you're just not doing.
For sure. Oh yeah.
And the Pisces.
Well, and it could also be maybe through social conditioning, adopting these more consensus belief systems that may be at odds, to natural law.
Exactly. That was excellent. And so true. And then we've got Pisces, which is the hiding, which we've been talking about. And hiding just can mean literally being, choosing to be born into a family of origin or a culture that would no way near in a million years open up a pathway for you to lead a natural life, like because maybe in past lives you were persecuted for it or perished. So you're like, heck, forget that. I want to survive this time at least. I'm just going to go hide within this family.
Yeah, I don't want the demonization. Yeah.
So it does lead to trauma. It never leads to anywhere good. And I have a very recent example of this I want to share about a girl who grew up with horses and loved horses. She's a total horse girl. And it's interesting because she chose a family that would allow her and would expose her to exactly what it was that she needed to recover herself.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because she has Saturn on the South Node, she has not been living in lifetimes where that was happening. So really conservative cultures, right?
Yeah.
And so Jupiter is squaring the nodes in Capricorn. And anyway, she had a little bit of an allergy to animals. And this can happen when I can speak for myself. I was deathly allergic to horses growing up.
Really?
Yes, like we'll talk about it on another segment, but I literally, my airways would close when I got around horses. I mean, and I thought, well, this is just a dirty trick. I mean, I'm a Sagittarius. I'm like,
I know, there you're looking in the mirror and seeing a horse.
But anyway, what happens is when you are not living your truth, Then the trauma connects to Aquarius, 11th house, Uranus, which is directly linked with the lungs. And you know, getting near the horse meant I'm so far off where I need to be, and my body's telling me that, even though the horse was something I was so attracted to. And again, I'll save this story for another time, but this girl that I'm talking about was really getting off track herself in her 20s, and to the point of needing to be on an inhaler, even when she wasn't really even around animals. And then all of a sudden, and she sold her horse and everything, and just, you know, got into the dating scene, the makeup scene, the, you know, the whole,
I know that one.
The glamorization.
Oh, I know that one. Trust me.
And so what happened was, she had this desire to go riding with a friend of hers who had horses, and she was rushing this girl's horse and literally had to be rushed to the emergency because she couldn't breathe.
Oh, wow.
Now, this is a girl who grew up with horses and didn't have that problem. So that is telling her that you are so far off from where you need to be, girl. You and you had the upbringing to remind you who you are. So what is so important to know is that this particular girl was having a Pluto transit opposing her Mars and her Venus. Okay.
Where was her Neptune?
It's conjunct her Neptune. I was almost getting there. See, you're so smart, Stacie. Pluto is conjunct her Neptune in the 9th house. Look, okay, here are the mutable axis here. Pluto conjunct her Neptune in the 9th, opposing a 3rd house Mars and Venus, which are balsamic. It's another Pisces signature. And so what happens is that Pluto transit is trying to eliminate everything that doesn't serve her. It's increasing her sensitivity. It's shifting her immune system, and it made her sick. I mean, it made her, nearly, she thought she was going to die. I mean, it was really freaking intense.
Yeah, which is, it just reminds me of how you know, God plays a role in our lives. And, you know, sometimes what we thought we were a different idea, and so these kinds of things can happen, and it, you know, it becomes an issue of surrendering and being able to cooperate with the adjustments.
Exactly. So I had the opposite effect that this girl had. I grew up in a very religious, conservative family. We did have a dog, but he was more of an outside dog. I lived in California. So, you know, he could be out there, and we had a big yard and all that.
That's nice.
But I definitely noticed an allergy. I couldn't really put my face in his fur or anything. And so I had the opposite effect in that I wasn't, you know, exposed. And that wasn't even until I was older when I had a dog. So but as I started to recover myself, recover my nature, understand my soul at its root through the evolutionary journey, my allergies have completely
disappeared.
I wouldn't say totally disappeared, but they've made an about face. I mean, I have a big dog. I've had him for 11 years, and I can I never was allergic to him from the very beginning. I can be around cats and birds, and the only thing I'm really allergic to now is bunnies for some reason. Horses, I am still a little bit allergic to horses, only certain types of horses, like those Arabian type horses.
Wow.
A certain strong type of dander. Do you remember that? What was that one big show? It was all about the horses. It was kind of a Cirque du Soleil with horses. I can't remember the name of it.
I am not aware of that.
Oh, it was so popular, and was when I was living in Southern California. But it was in Santa Monica, and it was outside, and there were these really special rare horses, and they were doing all sorts of acrobats and things. It was the most incredible show I think I've ever seen. But I literally was wheezing terribly by the time intermission came.
Yeah.
And this was, you know, before I really started to decondition. So, you know, people, it's not, the thing is, it's like the soul sets it up. That's the trauma for sure that's occurred for that soul, but it's also the soul's fear of getting too close to who they are, right?
Right.
So anyway, a little taste of what happens when you repress the daemon nature.
Yes.
And you talked about the 7 soul structures.
Mm-hmm.
You can be more than, you can be another soul structure at its root, but have also daemon tendencies or qualities, I would say. You're not, it's not like, you know, with all the chakras, we want to have all of them open, right?
Right.
And so a natural person, if who may not be a daemon, but love animals, right? Or it's just something to think of. Next, they're going to be wanting us to do something on the 7 soul type, but
yeah,
maybe another time. Okay, so let's go to the first chart. I think is what we have here. Oh, before we do, Stacie, we are going to have to
we're going to have to speed it up.
We're gonna have to speed it up, man, or your chart is going to the next segment. Okay, so by the way, there are asteroids that connect to what we're talking about, and we're sharing here. It's interesting, Damiaan. You know, there's a movie about this. How someone wants to take this pure and sacred archetype and call it Damiaan, or it's kind of connected to the word demon.
Yeah.
But anyway, 4266 is the number. You can also go to this truenode.com website, which you can find through the EA message board.
It's actually right there on the graphic.
Yep, right there. And you can write in Damiaan. You don't have to write in the number, but if you don't spell it correctly, you know, they won't come up. And Wolf, Asteroid Wolf is spelled with 2 F's. Remember that. Okay. And you can check out their south and north nodes of those asteroids. It's just awesome. Yeah. It's unlimited. Cool. It's just unlimited.
Awesome.
All right. Let's go to the next slide. Ugh. Love her. All right. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce her name.
It's Ayal Chopin. How was that? Ayal Chopin.
I love this woman, this soul, I should say, Eagle Huntress, and she's only 13 in this picture. I think she's about 17 now, from Mongolia. So let's go ahead and check out her chart. All right, this picture of her, she's much more grown up. Looks like she's closer to 17 or at least. And we can see here that she's, you know, got a south node in Capricorn with Mars and Chiron. She's got the Pluto
on the galactic center.
On the galactic center, very powerful place. 28 degrees. She is a natural woman, a wild woman for sure. Check it out. 3rd house Pluto retrograde. Look at all those retrogrades. We talked about Gemini being about animals that fly in flight. Strong mutable axis with the moon and Virgo rising there. She's got a strong 9th house, again, more air. A Saturn in Gemini, the ruler of her south node in Capricorn. Jupiter in Gemini, the ruler of her Mars, a ruler of her Pluto. And look at her palace in Sag, the messenger in the 3rd house. Unbelievable.
Right.
So here she's got the father who's teaching her how to do what the boys and the men typically do. South node in Capricorn. The father is her teacher, the ruler being Saturn in the 9th house. Wow. They've definitely come through many lifetimes together. You can see that with Mercury balsamic to that Saturn, which rules her south node in the 4th in Capricorn.
You know, one thing that's interesting about her parents is that, not only was she born to a man who was, you know, willing to just teach his daughter all these things that women weren't supposed to do, but you know, there's 2 comments that I want to reference in. I don't know if it's watching, but there's 2 you know, there's a part where her mother makes the comment that, you know, she's just so interested in, you know, this art of eagle hunting that she would just follow her dad around and learn all the techniques and all of that. And she said, and you know, she was a little sad, and she said, unfortunately, it means that I don't have much of a chance to have a relationship with her. But then she said, but that's okay, because it's what's best for her, and I want her to be happy, which I thought was beautiful, and a beautiful kind of reflection of this nodal axis of the moon. You know, you've got your south node in Capricorn, and then your north node in Cancer.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the other comment that I wanted to reference is there's a point where she makes a comment, and she says, girls can do anything that boys can do. And you can see that Venus in Aries is squaring the nodal axis, and so that skips steps. And so part of this lifetime is all about breaking, you know, those boundaries and really advancing, you know, societal expectations, and giving women a place to do that kind of work, and to get engaged with that kind of art. So,
yeah, it's making, I want things to be fair and equal.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm sure you can see that in past lives that was not the case. I think it's very important that she came in as a girl and not a boy. She could have chosen to come in as a boy. There's clearly some gender switch going on in this chart.
Yes, for sure.
She needed to actualize both sides of gender at some point. She was going to come in as a girl. You can also see that the Capricorn South Node in the 4th is like, my father is like my mother too. So the father was like, the mother didn't get to, right? So the father was everything to her.
Yeah.
And both axes, you can see that. The moon's, you know, the moon in Virgo suggests that the mother, you know, kind of, it's a lack of that because she was always with the father. She got everything she needed from that relationship.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that skip step is huge. And her independence, her determination, her courage, her confidence that she had, her natural ability that she has too, with that Saturn in the 9th, the ruler of her South Node, sextiling that Venus, which is part of the skip step. The Venus rules her sun in the 8th in Taurus. Not to mention here, she's got, you know, the Damiaan asteroid is at 3 Leo, trining that Venus. It's in the 11th, so doing something unlike other girls are doing at this age, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
so,
she was the first female to ever compete in that Eagle Festival.
Exactly.
And then she won. So how's that for breaking whatever you call it?
How's that for breaking the norms and hitting it out of the park?
Exactly.
I mean, she's just like a natural warrior hunter type, that Mars on the South Node, a female warrior at that.
Yeah. You know, and one thing I kind of want to just mention, you mentioned her confidence and her determination and all of that. It's interesting that her moon is in Virgo because, you know, that's but I mean, one of the things that I always say is that humility is like the greatest power around. And then with all this Taurus, with this Mercury and the Sun and the Juno, functions in her consciousness that are operating self-reliantly. She does the work herself. And so that's where her confidence comes from. Exactly. She's not there to put on a show. You know, that's where her confidence comes from. And that's the beautiful thing about Virgo. Yeah.
Exactly. Like her confidence comes because she's done the work and she knows it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what the moon in Virgo has to do. I mean, I remember my daughter's got a strong Virgo, Mars in Virgo, Sun in Virgo, and she's a dancer. And when she was younger, whenever a show would come, she would just practice till she's memorized every single little thing. You know, don't ask her to do something spontaneously if she hadn't practiced or forgotten.
Right. I deal with that one too.
I would say that, you know, was a big one for me when I first started doing this work and having to do a talk or what have you. I mean, I didn't want to didn't want to not be able to answer a question or miss something that I felt was important. So I know all about that.
Never feeling ready enough.
Never ready. Exactly. But what I've learned is that it's more important to be, yes, the material, just study the material, take it in emotionally. That's what's the most important thing for anyone who's listening and doing this work and working with clients. The key is to understand and to dial into these archetypes emotionally. When you have an inner experience emotionally of what's happening for that client, then boom, it just goes, because the mind, of course you're going to be limited in what you can access when you're trying to help someone. It's really about being able to help them through that water current that we call, the evolutionary current. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. And you can see, remember we talked about the fact that daemon souls can connect emotionally to these animals. You've got to see some pure emotion going on here, and you sure do in this chart.
Yes, absolutely.
Lastly, the wolf. Wolf is just, of course, this very wild animal and wants to not be limited in any way, and is 26 Aries trining her Mars. So another symbol for just
in the
reflecting
8th house.
her, very empowering place for that and for the sun.
Well, and confronting all, like, for example, these ideas that, you're a female, you're not supposed to be doing this, how can you? In fact, she
I lost you this now. Are you still there?
Oh, I was. Did you get any of that?
You said, no, I didn't. You said another thing about her being a female, and then I lost you.
Oh, well, okay, now I kind of lost my train of thought, but
growing up as a girl, maybe doing
because 8th house is confrontation.
Oh, gotcha.
And and I was just saying that in the festival there were just a lot of people who were skeptical about how well she could do, and then she won it, and then there were still critics and skeptics who said she couldn't possibly go to the mountains in winter and successfully fox hunt. And then what did she do? She went right on up to those mountains in the winter, and she got her first fox. Or the eaglet did. But so she did it.
Well, all I know is I want an outfit like that. That's pretty awesome.
I know. I agree. Oh, totally.
So I'm going to draw everyone's attention to this graph below her, which shows her birthday, the natal daemon at 2 Leo. The north node of her daemon is 27 Libra, where she's headed. More self-reliance, more fairness, more balance. I'm going to prove to you that girls can do what boys do. South node, 5 Taurus on her sun, pretty much on her wolf as well.
Inner resources. Internalizing. Because she's done so much work understanding her relationship within nature and observing how it's put together, and she's just internalized that knowledge, and it's led to capacities that she has been able to actualize.
Exactly. Her south node of Daemon, though, is squaring her Neptune. Also, her south node of Wolf on the other side is squaring her Neptune in Scorpio. The Wolf south node of Wolf in Scorpio, which reflects the fact that Neptune rules her 7th house cusp. So this reflects in past lives that she wasn't able to do what she wanted to do because she was maybe married to a man who wouldn't allow it, or this whole unfairness thing. So it's like literally just feeling traumatized.
There's your skipped step, Venus and Aries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we could talk about her chart all day, but we should move on.
Oh, Yeah, I don't think we're going to get to my chart. That's okay, though.
And we're going to save, maybe we can do that in the next bit, if that's okay with you. And
how much time do we have? It looks...
probably 15 minutes here.
Okay, all right.
We'll see what we can do. So we don't want to cut this one short. Of course, the founder and master teacher of evolutionary astrology, Jeffrey Wolf Green, hence the name Wolf. And gosh, well, of course, we've got a south node in Sag. We've got, let's start here, Pluto in the ninth with Saturn. South node in Sag, Sun in Sag, Mars in Sag, North node in Gemini, Uranus in Gemini, Pisces, Moon. You know, you got them all going on here. All those mutables.
Yes. And he also has Wolf in Pisces in the fourth as well.
Wolf and Pisces in the fourth, and Damon and Gemini on the north node.
Right. Total Damon.
Yeah, he did not want to come back as a human. He was definitely not happy about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I remember him telling me once, he said, I'll take my chances and be a wolf next time or something.
I can see him saying that. Yeah.
All right. Well, we were told we could go another 30 minutes if we wish, so we'll do our best. But yeah, I don't want to skimp on this chart.
I know, me neither. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we've got all this mutable going on, and we've got obviously a soul that he is a daemon soul, and has had many lives in nature, many lives in tribes, many lives rebelling, never conforming, never conforming. I mean, you've got Pluto, Saturn retrograde, Uranus retrograde, Venus retrograde.
Yeah.
Conforming, not conforming, never. And then
never. All that Scorpio too, and then so much of it in the first house. Yeah.
Exactly. But I know that the first story that I know about relative to really, I think, him living more of his nature, because he was raised in a relatively traditional family in the valley of Southern California, and born in Hollywood, but blanking on the name of where he grew up, but in LA, the other side of the hill there, kind of Sherman Oaks area. But anyway, just, track home neighborhood sort of thing. After Vietnam, which he did science in Vietnam, Mars on the south node, opposing Uranus, lucky to be alive. But he would always say, if I wasn't a Sag, I'd be dead by now.
That's funny.
Jupiter in the 12th house can be a symbol to ruler of Sag for, guardian angel energy. But, having guardian angels present, he certainly has plenty of those. So, but what happened when he got back, and a lot of these guys that went to war just didn't even know what to do with themselves back in a normal existence. I mean, he did a lot of things. He went to Nepal, lived in a temple for a while. He traveled all over the world, hitchhiking, etc. But at one point he ended up in New Mexico in the High Chaparrals, and he was living with wolves there and with a peyote master for many months. And I have no idea how old he was, but it was in his 20s at some point, because I think it was a Saturn return when he met the Nalbandians and started becoming an astrologer. I think it was a Saturn return, Maggie Nalbandian. So anyway,
when you say living with wolves, I know there was a point where he was able to ride a wild horse bareback. Is that at the same time?
Yeah, it was at the same time as well.
Okay. Wow.
But just like never growing up with horses, but just,
right.
His most recent life, he was an Indian.
Right. I know, you can see it in his face.
I can't remember the tribe.
I think, I don't know either, but I think it's also kind of good to acknowledge that, Jeffrey is at a pretty advanced spiritual state. And so, you know, his connection with nature and that fusion of consciousness is a very conscious thing for him. And so I think that really is a contributor to a lot of experiences with the wild.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
it was, he always spoke about it as one of his most fond memories in this life.
It's the simple things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, just because he considers him a wolf. He considers himself a wolf as well. Look at the south node of his wolf at 17 Scorpio, right on his Venus. Are you kidding me? Like, that's his inner relationship to himself, and and just how he feels within himself.
Right.
The wild wolf that he is.
Right.
His natal.
Well, before you move on to that, one thing I want to say about that Venus, and what was it? What node is? Oh wait, it's
south
right here.
Node of wolf.
Okay, so the south node, and which makes complete sense because, you know, he has openly admitted that some of his work in this lifetime has been resolving his anger. And one of the things that I personally interpret out of
I lost you.
Oh, okay. What was the last thing you heard?
About resolving his anger and that.
Yeah. And I was saying that Asteroid Wolf, I tend to really look at that as kind of a reflection of the nature of wolves. The really key thing about wolves is that, you know, they're apex predators, and they've really been demonized and, you know, persecuted, and so I think that really connects with that anger. You know, he has seen all these things. He knows how it is. He knows
Lost you.
Oh, dang it!
There you are. You are. I don't know I don't know.
How much did
I got most of it about the predators.
Did I make a sufficient point?
I did. And hopefully Linda can hear you and everybody else. But yeah, they've been persecuted. They're misunderstood. They are absolutely predators and the most.
But they serve an important function in the ecosystem. Like I don't know if you've seen that that study, and there was a little video that went viral called How.
What was the video called?
How Wolves Change Rivers.
Ooh, no.
Oh my God, it's fascinating. Can I just talk about this for a second?
Sure.
So this study was focused on the reintroduction of wolves in National Park, and you know, before they got there, the park, it had just lost a lot of its diversity. All of the waterways were being eroded, and it's adapted to the area. And you know, because deer and elk are, you know, main prey, it started to influence the elk and the deer such that they started avoiding all of the open regions. And as a result of that, new vegetation started to grow, and through that vegetation, the waterways, you know, the vegetation was counteracting the erosion, and the rivers were stabilized. Returned. Their dams then brought otters and muskrats and reptiles. The red fox population increased because of the wolves' check on the coyote population. And then, you know, of course, the ravens, which are known to follow wolves, you know, they came back and would feed on the carcasses. And so, you know, they really so many other understood.
That is so awesome. It made me think of the fact that there are now wolves that are gray wolves being discovered in the abandoned village in Chernobyl, this radioactive forbidden zone, you know, around the nuclear
Oh my gosh,
disaster
really?
site.
Whoa.
So they're now roaming out and, you know, around there and raising the possibility. They're concerned that they may spread mutant genes that, you know, as a result of being there. But that tells you how tough they are as a species.
Right.
Like they're literally like surviving at Chernobyl.
Yeah. Right. No doubt. That's incredible.
Yeah. All right. So I know you wanted to share a story too. Again, after Vietnam, Jeffrey just could not be in society. And especially after coming back from New Mexico, living there, he just took off with his dog, Smack, which was an Australian Shepherd, I believe, some type of Australian Shepherd.
Right.
And you tell the rest of the story.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was one of those moments where he was hitchhiking. And
on the Lincoln Tunnel. Oh, no, it wasn't there. Never mind. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
And anyway, the dog got struck by a car and it died. And
right in front of him.
Right in front of him. Yep. And he was so distraught that I can't remember. I think he dug a grave. I don't. He must have dug a grave because he literally sat on that grave for 7 days, just mourning the loss of this dog. And there came a point where he, because of his the evolution of his consciousness, he, the dog came to him in spirit and said, "Hey, I'm happy. You can move on now." And so,
yes, that's amazing. 7 days of absolute grief.
Yes. Yeah. And then the spirit, the dog's soul came back to give him, in quotes, permission to move on and carry on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember a story too. He told that's why I said the Lincoln Tunnel, literally with his dog at his heel, that his dog Smack never, ever was on a leash. And he was going.
His name was Smack?
Yeah, Smack.
That's so cute.
It might have. I don't know if he gave him the name or it was an abused dog that somebody had locked up in a garage, and I think a neighbor reported it, not of his, of this guy that was abusing the dog, and he rescued the dog. And that might have already been his name, but anyway, he literally was on his heel everywhere he went, even under the Lincoln Tunnel in New York. And so for him not to die, the dog not to get hit by a car.
Yeah, that's crazy.
In the Lincoln Tunnel. And I remember him telling this story about there was nobody on the road when his dog was killed. It's like he just came out of nowhere.
Right.
So you think about it like, just to survive Vietnam and then just to try and, this dog was everything to him. Everything.
Exactly. And when you're feeling so, alienated from society and you've got your best friend and then you see that traumatic, and imagine.
It's a good point. That is a big part of the daemon consciousness and souls. They do feel so much of the case or the times feel alienated. So you're also going to see a lot of Uranian energy, whether there are a lot of retrograde planets or stress to Uranus. In this case, the moon squares Uranus and Mars opposes it. Neptune, the ruler of his moon, is in the 11th. So, just feeling like he doesn't fit in this world. It's just, and then to have your best friend in the name of Smack. Yeah, that was, so you can see the sudden trauma here, even in this chart with the Uranus-Mars opposition.
Yeah.
All right, so we can move on unless there's something else you wanted to add.
Well, yeah, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
What did I hear?
I saw something here too I wanted to say, but I'm gonna let you go.
Okay. I thought it'd be good to mention how, his conscious, what he thought he was going to do at this lifetime was basically be
Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You said what he was going to be doing in this lifetime was a monk?
Was to, basically live as a monk and just to know God, because, he's a very spiritually oriented human being, and that's what he wanted to do, and, felt like that was right to do. And then he met this teacher who he really respected. I don't know exactly who that is, but he was told, well, you're going to be an astrologer. And and the funny thing about it is that Jeffrey just despised astrology, just because of all of the ways that it can be misused and has been misused, and he just thought that'd be more important than knowing God directly.
Right.
And and then he bought that, and then the teacher said, until you haven't even read one astrology book, so what basis are you forming your opinion? And so he got a book, and he said the first page he got a vision, like, yep, I'm going to be an astrologer, and a world famous one. And which is incredible, because through that role, he has, evolutionary astrology is totally based on natural laws. And so he's taking this knowledge that he has of natural laws, through his daemon soul that has gathered all of this experience, and he has been able to translate it for us and to show us how to objectify the dynamics in our own birth charts. And then, also just being sort of a beacon for other daemon souls to know who they are, and, to help them understand themselves, because that some of us don't know we are.
Exactly. You know what? It's what really made it for him, made it matter. Was to have a paradigm that would help other people remember who they are. So helping people return to their nature, whatever their nature is.
Yeah,
that
exactly. Yeah.
He could show them, and he used to call it an usher with a flashlight, or he would call himself an errand boy for the wise. I'm just an errand boy.
That's great. I love that.
But that was what made it matter for him and means something so much. Not that he was doing, this work came into him through dream, Moon Pisces, trining his Jupiter in the 12th by Yukastwar. That may have been how he was told he was going to be an astrologer.
I wondered if that was the teacher he was referencing.
Probably. I think that's what it was. And just to feel like, wow. And then when he started using this work and giving charts for free just to test it, continuously being blown away by the power of this work and how it can directly get to the root of the why, not just descriptive astrology, but answering the question why.
Yeah.
And so I know that when I first heard him speak on Saturn, which was my skip step, and I had been studying astrology for a few years, and I was at a conference where there was a lot of astrologers there, and my brain was just fried from trying to understand what they were saying. And then
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
And then when he was lecturing, like, he just said good morning, and I felt like, wow, it was an emotional experience versus some heady thing that I was trying to figure out intellectually.
I literally came out of my body in my case when I first saw him in her. I was like, oh my God, like, I know you, and you are talking from the soul. Like, he is talking from a different place.
It's true. Yep. And so I think how fitting for a daemon soul to be the caretaker of this work, right? The daemon soul makes no differentiation between humans and plants, and and
Yeah.
animals, and
Yeah.
that there's a natural balance in place, that things are put together in such a way that, you know, we don't, that we take care of everything, you know, and I feel too that with the Daemon soul being so, without conditioning, being so capable of this fusion, this fusing kind of energy, you know, it really allows him to reach people in a way, in addition to the fact that, of course, he's a very old, evolved consciousness, but in a way that would allow him to reach souls that, you know, otherwise could not be reached, you know, in this way, because of the nature of how he's put together. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, let's see. Any last, I wanted to say this. South node of Daemon at 12 Aries is, see, South node, did I read that right? Yeah. South node of Daemon in 12 Aries. It's trining his Pluto, trining his Saturn. It's forming a grand trine with all his fire. And so you can see that there. Also, of course, you know, reflects the anger, you know, it opposes Neptune. So the anger of what happened to this archetype in general.
And what
totally
he sees going on in the planet.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I look at that as, think about the movie Avatar, that South Node, and Aries, Daemon opposing his Neptune. It's just like absolute chaos.
Yeah.
And then the North Node in Scorpio on his Jupiter, and that does trine his moon as well. I mean, it's just this emotional oneness, you know, with the archetype. And then the 8 degrees of Gemini for the natal Daemon, again, I feel like is so much about being a messenger for others, a messenger to help people restore more balance in their own lives. Those
and remember
lost
themselves.
their way. Yeah, exactly. All right. So we only have a bit of time here. I'm wondering, you want to move to the next chart?
Nah, I think we should.
This is what we're going to do. We'll talk about Stacie in the next, and a couple other examples. We're going to develop the Daemon topic more deeply, more completely. This was such an incredible start and a beginning. I'm envisioning 3 in this series, but we'll see how we go. And we're on board for a while, Stacie. So, you know, anything about what helps us and others reconnect our nature, helps us remember what a natural expression is of any archetype, of any soul structure. That's what I'm most passionate about in my work, to help people get back to their nature. I know you are very much the same, Stacie.
Yes, definitely.
And I just wanted to thank you so much for joining me today. It was awesome. I loved every minute of it.
Me too.
And for those of you who want to learn more about evolutionary astrology, please visit the website schoolofelevolutionaryastrology.com, and you can post messages on our message board if you have any questions. Stacie and I'll be back soon, and we'll be announcing that when we know. And until next time, namaste.
Namaste.